Did you know that the U.S. holds 22% of the world's prisoners, even though the U.S. only makes up about 4% of the world's population? This is a fact that would not be surprising if the U.S. had a crime rate that was 5 times higher than the average crime rate of other countries. But this is not the case. Why then does this disparity exist? The simple answer to this disparity is that the incarceration rate in the U.S. is much higher than the incarceration rate in most other countries. Take a look at these graphs. Graph number 1 displays the percent of criminals that end up being incarcerated. The U.S. incarcerates around 70% of criminals, while Finland incarcerates only 7%. Graph number 2 shows the average length of imprisonment. The U.S. incarcerates criminals convicted of robbery for an average of 91 months, while Finland incarcerates prisoners for just 17 months. These statistics bring on an important question. What is the purpose of prisons? Do prisons exist to take the place of fines as a form of punishment like in the U.S.? Or do prisons exist to protect citizens from dangerous criminals and rarely take the place of fines like in Finland? To help determine the correct answer to this question, the cost of incarceration needs to be considered. Every prisoner costs taxpayers $31,000 a year on average, and the U.S. spends around $80 billion total on corrections a year. Given how costly it is to incarcerate citizens, it might be easy to assume that a high incarceration rate hurts everyone. But this is actually false. The utilization of prison labor is highly profitable. Prisoners can be paid as little as 20 cents an hour, and they never need to miss work. So, the longer prison sentences are, and the more often incarceration is used to punish crime, the more profit companies that use prison labor are able to make. Here's an example to put things in perspective. The clothing company, American Apparel, which boasts ethically sweatshop-free made clothes, shut down a plant that had 175 employees that were paid $9 an hour with benefits in order to hire prisoners that could be paid as little as 20 cents an hour. Forcing prisoners to do this slave labor is justified by the belief that putting prisoners to work improves the rehabilitation rate. While this may be true in some cases, most of the labor that prisoners are involved in are jobs that pay little to nothing and do not exist outside of prison fences. Keeping all of this information in mind, it appears that the purpose of prisons in the U.S. is not only to take the place of fines, but also to provide cheap labor for private companies. For instance, the 2 largest prison labor companies made a combined total of $3.3 billion in revenue in 2015. By now, you might be thinking that this is a rather twisted purpose for prisons. Is it even legal to force prisoners to do slave labor for private companies? Yes, prison labor is completely legal. According to the 13th Amendment, Section 1, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime, shall exist within the United States. Perhaps a more important question is whether or not the high incarceration rate in the U.S. was encouraged by private companies. Take a look at this graph. It shows the percent change in the incarceration and violent crime rate. You can see that the violent crime rate actually went down about 20% since 1978, but the incarceration rate went up by 250% by 2012. Unsurprisingly, since 1978, hundreds of companies such as Microsoft, AT&T, and Dell began to utilize prison labor. There is no way that this is merely a coincidence. Was it ethical for the justice system to increase the incarceration rate and the length of sentences in order to allow private companies to increase their profits from prison labor? This presentation was only made possible because of the research done by the Prison Policy Initiative. Support this organization to help revert the changes done to our correction system by private interests.